when we first started dating, she had hand surgery and she was coming out of anesthesia and she just goes, "I love you." And I said, "What?" And she goes, "I love you." And I said,
I don't remember.
I was like, "Go back to bed." And then, no, she said it a few times as a mistake. And then I was in New York City and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I have this whole thing planned. And I was laying in bed with her and we're like about to say it. And then she says it before me. She steals my moment.
Yeah, I did.
Stole the thunder.
She stole it.
It was just too much. I was excited.
There are some things the world simply was not built to keep secret, and Benny Blanco, for all his easy charm and unfiltered podcast energy, has apparently decided that his marriage to Selena Gomez is going to be one of them. Not because he does not want to talk about her. Anyone who has spent even 5 minutes listening to him gush over the woman he married knows that restraint is not his natural setting when it comes to Selena, but because there are rooms in a marriage that belong only to the two people inside it, and Benny Blanco, against every instinct the internet had about him, has decided to keep that door firmly shut. During the May 12th episode of his Friends Keep Secrets podcast, after co-host Lil Dicky pushed him directly about his sex life with his wife, Blanco did not hedge or laugh it off with some clever deflection. He simply said he was not allowed to talk about it publicly. The internet predictably lost its mind. Speculation immediately erupted that Gomez had made him sign a non-disclosure agreement, a legal instrument that would formally prevent him from ever spilling the details. Blanco shut that theory down just as quickly as it appeared. There was no NDA. There were no lawyers involved. His explanation was disarmingly simple. He is just a gentleman, and this is simply a thing he does. 6 words that somehow said everything and nothing at all, which is perhaps the most impressive communication feat Benny Blanco has ever pulled off in a career built entirely on making things sound effortless. What makes the moment so strangely compelling is not the restraint itself but the context surrounding it, because Benny Blanco has never exactly been known for keeping things close to the chest. The couple have been notably open about many dimensions of their relationship, and Blanco in particular has developed something of a reputation for oversharing on the podcast circuit. He talked about Selena waiting outside his house before their early dates. He talked about knowing she was going to be his wife practically from the moment they started spending real time together. He told Interview magazine in March 2025 that from their second date, something clicked inside him so completely and so suddenly that he went home and told his mother he had found the woman he was going to marry. This is not the behavior of a man who guards his interior life carefully. And yet here he is, drawing a line in the sand with the quiet confidence of someone who has thought carefully about exactly where that line belongs. Gomez herself has spoken with equal vulnerability about what this relationship has meant to her, telling interviewers that she spent 5 years completely alone before Benny came into her life, and that a decade ago she would not have been emotionally equipped to receive the kind of unconditional love and patience he brings to their partnership. Blanco, for his part, admitted that he sometimes catches himself terrified that she is going to wake up one morning and simply decide she is done, that the whole thing was a dream he somehow stumbled into, and that Gomez's response to that fear was immediate and completely unambiguous. "You are stuck with me." That is the kind of exchange that stays with you, not because it is dramatic or performative, but because it sounds like something two real people actually say to each other in the dark, in the middle of an ordinary night when nobody is watching. And maybe that is precisely the point. The couple married in Santa Barbara in September 2025 in a ceremony that was intimate by celebrity standards and stacked with names: Taylor Swift, Martin Short, Steve Martin, Paul Rudd, all present as Benny and Selena formally became each other's. The wedding itself was a statement, not just of love but of intention. These were two people who had very deliberately chosen to build something real inside the noise of an industry that feeds on spectacle. By 2026, they had settled into a notably low-key rhythm, skipping high-profile events like the Met Gala in favor of studio time, family time, and the kind of slow, intentional domesticity that most people in their orbit have no framework for. The world had been conditioned to expect fireworks from Selena Gomez's love life. The tabloids had spent years turning it into a kind of ongoing theatrical production, and what she and Benny delivered instead was something far more subversive: privacy dressed up as normalcy. His decision to not discuss their intimate life publicly is entirely consistent with that project. It is also, if you pay close enough attention, the most romantic thing he could have possibly said. Not because mystery is inherently romantic, though it often is, but because it signals something deeper about how he views the relationship itself. Selena Gomez is his best friend, his wife, The person he picked out of every room he has ever been in and decided to anchor his entire future to. And what he is protecting when he refuses to answer Lil Dicky's question is not information. It is sanctity. There is a version of celebrity coupledom where everything is content, where the relationship exists as much for the audience as it does for the two people living it, where intimacy becomes a brand extension and vulnerability becomes a marketing strategy. Benny and Selena have clearly decided that is not the version they want. He is happy to talk about her eating habits, her humor, the particular texture of the life they are building together. But the bedroom stays behind a closed door, not because someone told him it had to, but because he decided it should. There is something quietly radical about a man in the public eye choosing to define his own limits without a legal document forcing his hand. In a media culture that rewards exposure above almost everything else, opting out of that particular transaction requires both conviction and a certain comfort with being misunderstood. Some corners of the internet read his refusal as suspicious. Others saw the NDA theory and ran with it regardless of his denial. But the simplest reading is often the truest one. He loves her too much to make her a punchline, too much to reduce the most private dimension of their lives to content, too much to trade her dignity for a laugh on a podcast that he himself produces and controls. That is not a gentleman's agreement. That is just love doing what love is supposed to do when it is functioning properly, protecting what matters most quietly without needing anyone else to applaud it.